Okay, let's go to our teaching on the school. We started yesterday as far as the cause being, the problem in America today is the cause of the origination of our schools, and the origination of the purpose is the cause was lost after the victory over England. And the cause being to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ throughout the nations of the world, but in particular the nation of the colonies where they were. And the cause turned into the effect. And the effect of the cause was great prosperity. The effect of the cause of spreading the gospel will always be, we just talked about it today here in the book of Zechariah, that you can't measure the length and width and breadth of the kingdom of God. It's all over the earth. Jesus came. There's churches everywhere. There's Christianity spread. It's the most people, one religion or one belief in the Bible and Jesus Christ. And of course, it's had a lot of different ways of worship. But the point is that the Bible is the most read book in all of history. And there's more people that believe in Jesus Christ and God of the Bible than any other religion or any other belief. And so with that being said, the effect of the cause of became prosperity, greatness. And for that, the people that came behind the original settlers, who really brought the gospel there in the 1800s, they began to think they were the cause. And that's the effect. The effect is they began to think they were the cause. The character of God was changed, and it's the character of man. It's the character of atheism, which is a very small part of the people, but it's a humanism, and they don't call it no God. They just call it, God gave us all of our abilities, and we are really smart. And so, we'll be able to, God created us, and He left us to do all the work. Now, we're the ones. And that's the little bit of the summary of the teaching of the ones that changed the teaching of the church to become the teaching of the state. And when the state becomes the control, it's then man becomes control, and he has his own religion. And the result of that is there's been a change in America. Unfortunately, that all that had been brought up, even the Constitution of the United States, they rail against the Constitution and have been for many, over a century now, that the Constitution, which is really based on Isaiah chapter 33, verse 22, which it says there's only one king, there's only one lawgiver, and there's only one judge. And they use that as a backdrop for the dual system of our country. The dual system is the federal government and the state government. And so those dual have all the same. And every state in the country, every state has a king, call him governor. They have a Congress, and they call them different things, assemblies in different states and various names. And then we have all of the judges in every state. And so that was a dual system that because of sin, we don't want to give any one person, like a governor or a president, that much power. All the laws that would be made by the legislative branch, the lawmaking branch, and the others are as a protection. Well, we're losing all of that, aren't we? And so even in that way, you can say the cause of our country was we all believe that they believe that man was a sinner, and if you give one man or a small group of people the ability, like we have an oligarchy, a one rule person today, that would undermine everything that we turn to God to do. And so that's where a little bit of the governmental history, but I want you to see how we got there. And so I'm reading in the book. The first problem is we turn from truth to, I don't know if it's truth or not. We have to figure it out. So the first problem was to change the attitude of Americans toward the history of their own country and the ideals of the founding fathers of the American Republic. This was not an easy task. The American people have been brought up to believe that George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and the other statesmen of their time were men of patriotism and principle. Hundreds of authoritative books had praised the heroic nature and stature and nobility, their purpose of the heroes who had defied the British Empire and founded a new nation based on individual freedom. This is not something like maybe. This is like it's right in the Declaration, and it's in the other writings, the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut, and other documents at the founding time. But we'll give our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. We're going to give up our life for this. There's where I don't think any of our leaders today can even come close to the percentage that we're going to give our lives. When they say we're going to give our lives, they meant physical lives. Today, it's you give your life to me so I can be happy, the leader. Anyway, history had been picked out as the vanguard of social sciences in picturing a socialism as the inevitable benefit or development. The first image of the founding fathers as men of high purpose had to be destroyed. This done, the socialists had a ready-made Marxism or Marxian formula to replace the traditional patriotic account of American history. That one sentence basically tells it all. There's a group of people that wanted to follow Marx in exchange for the patriotic men and women that came before them. One specific name, Charles Beard, who had co-authored with James Harvey Robinson the development of modern Europe in 1907. This was highly successful work, which popularized the socialistic teachings of Karl Marx. It achieved a wide acceptance as a textbook for the American colleges. Now, you remember yesterday I made this statement that the Christian schools remained a citadel of Christian liberty after they were taken over by the government schools. But as the seminaries and Christian colleges found their early sources of American history, replaced modern interpretations cast in the socialism of America. So what it was is the attack. And if you read, I have read many of the books or parts of the books of what the strategy was at the very turn of the century, 1900. The strategy was first to go into the seminaries and teach the Marxism, teach the Bible as not really a supernatural event and consistent with it, but that God created man and man was then to be his own God. And that's basically the teaching of Marx. Yes, there are also the teachings that man didn't even, that God, there isn't even a God. It just happened. That comes a little bit later. But what they're saying is that, yes, the founders of the country, they beat England in battle, but now the God or whatever has left up to us to work his ways or to work what he has given us without him. So here's how they attacked the one place, which was the seminaries of America. Like, for example, even going back into the 60s, 1960s, Harvard is moving into a situation where they're totally secular, very little Christian influence. I had a football coach, Homer Smith. He graduated from Princeton, and Princeton was also a school of seminary at its beginning. And all of the Ivy League schools, very much Christian, very much the Bible. Well, when I would talk with this man, it was like talking that, no, it's not the Bible and Christianity. That's what prepared us. But now we have to go on with our own teachings. And so the own teachings had to do with, they used Bible scriptures. You didn't put them in wherever you want to support their ideas. So Baird, at this time, became associated with the Intercollegiate Socialist Society, known today as the League for Industrial Democracy. The Intercollegiate Socialist Society had organized Fabian socialist branches in scores of universities and colleges in America, just as they do today. They're putting together all of these different groups in different universities to try to correct the history of America. They want to change the history of America. And that's what they're doing. So, in 1913, let me just read the sentence before this. With this socialist background, Beard was in a position not only to write, but also to find a market for his books. In 1913, he wrote an economic, this one is the one that I think, I most personally agree to, that it's really what has happened since this particular time of Clarence Darrow and Upton Sinclair and the lawyers and the meeting in New York where they developed this strategy to take over America from being a Christian nation to being a humanistic. We even have all the documents that they've said, this is what we're going to do. The first document of the humanists of America, they have the second document that God, there may be a God, but he is not working in the world anymore. He's left it up to us. And so this is in 1913, Beard wrote an economic interpretation of the Constitution of the United States of America. 1913. Okay, just an economic interpretation. What's an economic? That means what he's basically saying is the center or the foundation of America was basically economic. It was for the purpose of the people of America to have a great, huge empire taking over all the world financially. Now that did happen. we did, but now watch what happens when you interpret it in the Constitution. This was heavy artillery designed to demolish the lofty reputations of the founding fathers. We did it for money. Okay, so they should have said that in the Declaration. Our lives, our fortunes, and sacred honor should have been just for fortune. They didn't do it for fortune, just for fortune and honor for us. We're going to get everything. If you read about the ones that signed that and what happened to many of them, their homes, their wives, their children, slaughtered. Okay, let's go on. It was one of the most audacious pieces of historical deception of all time. James Madison, one of the framers of the United States Constitution and the fourth president of the United States, was caricatured as an exponent of a Marxist type of economic interpretation of history. Now listen to this. 21 years before Marx was even born. So the writer is saying Madison was following Marx. Marx wasn't even born. And then the ideas that Madison had were the same ideas that Marx had, but Marx hadn't even been born. In the portion that Beard extracted out of the context from Madison's writings, he tries to show that Madison attributed a purely economic and selfish motivation to the building of the American Republic. That is just so salient to the times that we're in today. Taking things that someone says and saying just the opposite and saying that's what they said. Beard's slant was calculated to undermine not only the heroic picture of the founding of our nation, but also to denigrate those features of independence, individualism, and self-reliance that characterized the pioneer era. Listen to the statement that Verna Hall and Rosemary Slater are saying here. Beard's slant was calculated not on the heroic picture. That's why they tear down the idols or the statues of the founders. But to denigrate them. Instead, when we look at the Faith Monument there in Plymouth, and you see the woman pointing up to heaven, and, a lot of people say, oh, well, that statue, that's an idol and everything. The woman depicts what I've told you just in this last week. The woman is the teacher. And to be protected and lifted up high. When you tear down that statue, you're doing exactly what the atheists and the demonic sources do. And instead of lifting up the woman, they're tearing her down. She's the woman of faith. And I can tell you right now, by experience, women are more faithful than men are. They're more sensitive to the Spirit. They're the ones that raise our children. And now we're taking them out of that position and saying, well, no, the state now is going to take care of your children. What a horrible thing. What a wonderful thing it is to have a wife and a mother that will raise up their children and, by the way, be a helper for her husband, to help him find God. Because most men are not looking for God. Women will be looking for God. I'm not saying they're just general. I'm not saying every single one. But anyway, I got off track. But it's a good place to get off track. Okay, so his slant was calculated to undermine the heroic people of our nation, but also to denigrate those features of independence. How many of the things that we're doing in our country today are the opposite of independence? Take care of yourself. Not the government's going to have to take care of this, and the government's going to have to take care of that, and the government takes care of this, and the government takes care of that. And one of the basic principles of why we are entered into this malaise that we are in is because the government took over all the education. I mean, if we could get the universities and the public teachers and all, it's just a cesspool of hate, bitterness, anger, and has no positive direction at all. It's just tear down, tear down, tear down. White privilege. God, you know what white privilege is? It's the same privilege that God gives everybody. Privilege. But it's not just white. I didn't get, it's God's creation. And every person's privileged to be the very best that anybody could be in what they're privileged to have in God's plan. It's a scary thing to see how it's going to hurt people. Independence, individualism, self-reliance. I don't need the government to take care of me. There's a woman, I don't know what her last name is now, but her name is Candace Owens. She got married. She was raised, I think, by her father in the South, and he said, Candace, you can get anything you want. You don't have to rely on other people. And man, I'll tell you what, if she ran for president, I'd vote for her 10 times over. I mean, can I talk? No. I would never like to get in an argument with her if I was on one side and she was on the other side. I'm going to lose. I'm just not that good. I mean, I might be able to argue with somebody else. Her, dead. I'm dead. She talked before the Congress of the United States of America, and it's the longest one I think that they ever show, the most seen one that they've ever shown. And the people she made them look like schoolboys. But you know where she was trained? She wasn't trained with white privilege. She was trained by God's privilege that she gave through her parents. Check it out if you're not too afraid to do so. You know, I asked a guy yesterday, he's a real good guy, good friend, and he said, we were talking about politics and things, and he says, well, do you want a liar like Trump to be in office? I said, did you say liar? He said, yeah, he's a tremendous liar. I said, well, what's one lie that he told? He goes, oh, there's so many of them. Just one. I mean, if there's so many, you should have it right off the tip of your tongue. He goes, oh, I'll just send you. I said, no, you don't even have one right now. You don't even have one lie that you can tell me that you know of, but you say he's a liar. By the way, there's nobody that's not a liar. If there is, he's a liar. And that goes double for those that are running for any kind of public office. It's couched. Anyway, going back, I'm just going to read just a few more words here. We go a little bit longer on Saturday, but Beard's slant, this slant of getting rid of the heroes of our country, that slant is what we're dealing with today. As Beard's interpretations have dominated the teaching of history in American schools, there is hardly an American alive who has not been exposed to this leftist virus. We need not a vaccine. That won't do it. The vaccine won't kill the American virus of history. A vaccine won't do it. You can't create something that's going to fix it. Since Beard's death in 1948, the socialist slant on history has been continued by such persons as Carl Becker, Max Lerner, and the two Schlesingers. Now, listen to me. I went to Van Nuys High School in the San Fernando Valley in the 1960s. In the 1960s, we learned very little history of America's greatness. It had already got into that. It was the subject that I said, this is a worthless nothing history. In 1964, 65, 66, 67, some of those times were where prayer was taken out of school. The history was they were really in the process of just writing the history books then, leaving out, I mean, all kinds of things. Greatness, the greatness of Christopher Columbus, the greatness of Pocahontas, the greatness of, all of the leaders that came in. It was all like the negative. And, I was on the football team, so you had to get at least a C, so I got a C. I went to UCLA, and I met a man by the name of Marshall Foster and started to read these red books. And you know something? I changed my perspective on history completely. I changed my life by history. I know that today, now, this history of America is the most powerful message. You can feel it. Get rid of all of your hate for America. What country is better? And really, seriously, think about it. Which nation in the world has made more of a good benefit to all the nations where we've gone and helped? What other nation has given so much money to the countries that they have defeated in battle? Why didn't they take control? Why didn't the Allied forces take control? Russia wanted to. They wanted to take over the whole world at that time. And America broke with them. Why? Because of our purpose in Jesus Christ and the gospel of Jesus Christ. We're not going to rule over people. We're not going to make slaves of the nations. I'm going to go on with this. I can tell you the truth. Anyone that opens their mouth and starts speaking against America, we ought to just say, get out of here. Go where you want to go. Go to the Marxist countries. Go to those places. Go there. See it. And to us, we have gone there. We have these flags in our church. We go there. I go to Africa. I go to Argentina. I go all over the world preaching the gospel. And you know, the gospel works everywhere. And they all know, everybody knows, that they're being destroyed by their leaders. Even in America, this one I was talking to, they don't know anything. They don't have any history. They don't know what, they're just listening. There is a time when it'll come to the forefront, and it's going to be so much so that it can't be Pastor Rob, or it can't be some teacher, or it can't be somebody. It's going to be the real teacher of them all, and his name is Jesus. And you know what? I'll tell you what. When that happens, we'll all know it. And so don't be afraid. Shout unto God with a voice of triumph, because sound the alarm. Sound the alarm. Sound the alarm. The Lord is coming. Have a great day. In Jesus' name, amen.